You're lying on the couch with someone who actually cares about you. Their hand is resting gently on your arm, the room is warm, and for a few minutes everything is perfectly still. You should be happy, but instead you feel a sudden, sharp urge to get up and check your email. Your skin starts to crawl, and you find yourself obsessing over the way they chew their gum. Why does this closeness suddenly feel like a cage you need to escape? Here's what's actually happening. Your brain has categorized intimacy as a threat to your basic survival. When things get too close, your nervous system triggers what's known as a deactivating strategy. This is a psychological self-defense mechanism designed to shut down your feelings before someone else has the chance to control or reject them. You aren't falling out of love. You aren't naturally cold. You are simply hitting your closeness ceiling, a limit your brain set years ago to keep you from being overwhelmed by the needs of others. You aren't actually running away from them. You are running toward a sense of safety that you believe only exists when you are alone. This behavior often traces back to something called dismissive avoidant attachment, a concept pioneered by researchers like Mary Ainsworth and John Bowlby. In the famous Strange Situation studies at Johns Hopkins University, researchers noticed that some children wouldn't cry when their caregiver left the room. They seemed independent, almost indifferent, but when researchers checked their heart rates, they were through the roof. These children had learned that expressing a need for closeness didn't result in comfort, so they simply stopped asking. As an adult, your brain still carries this blueprint. You treat your emotions like a secret vault because in your early years showing the contents of that vault didn't feel safe. Think of your heart as a turtle. It only feels secure when its head is tucked deep inside its shell, even if the sun is shining outside. Then there is the phenomenon of the vulnerability hangover, a term popularized by Dr. Brené Brown. Think about the last time you actually did open up and share something deep, or spent a weekend in total emotional sync with someone. Do you remember the crushing sense of regret or exposure that hit you the next morning? That's the hangover. To your nervous system, being seen feels like being exposed to a predator. You feel an intense need to rebalance the scales by pulling away, ghosting, or picking a fight to create some distance. It is an emotional sunburn. Even a gentle touch feels like a sting when you've been out in the heat of vulnerability for too long, without protection. We also have to look at the work of Dr. Amir Levine and Rachel Heller regarding deactivating strategies. These are the exit ramps your brain builds to keep you from getting too invested. Have you ever noticed yourself suddenly focusing on a tiny physical flaw in someone you previously found attractive? Or perhaps you find yourself obsessing over a phantom ex, an idealized version of a past partner that makes your current partner look bad by comparison? These aren't logical observations. They are tools your brain uses to dampen your attachment system. It's like a thermostat that automatically kicks on the air conditioning the moment the room gets too warm. You are literally cooling yourself down to keep from melting into the other person. Another mechanism at play is enmeshment anxiety, which is often studied in family systems theory. If you grew up in an environment where a parent relied on you too heavily for their own emotional stability, you likely learned that closeness equals loss of self. You began to view intimacy as a form of quicksand. In your adult brain, if you let someone get close, you subconsciously believe they will eventually swallow your identity whole. You pull away because you are trying to find where you end and they begin. It's a frantic search for the boundaries you weren't allowed to have as a child. You aren't being mean. You're just trying to make sure you still exist. Notice how this shows up in your day-to-day life when things are going well at work or in your social circle. Think about the last time you received a major compliment or a promotion. Did you immediately deflect it or go home and isolate yourself? This is the same pattern. In your mind, being known as successful or known as loved creates a high-stakes environment where you now have something to lose. You might find yourself sabotaging a great project or forgetting to text back your best friend for 3 days. It's a way of lowering the stakes. If you aren't the best or the closest, no one can take those things away from you. You're playing a game of emotional hide and seek where you're terrified of actually being found. This manifests in your romantic life as a cycle of come here, now go away. You are incredibly charming and present during the pursuit, but the moment the other person reciprocates and leans in, you feel a wave of boredom or irritation. You might tell yourself they are too needy or suffocating, even if they are just asking what you want for dinner. Notice how you feel a sense of relief the moment you are finally alone in your car or your apartment. That relief is the hit of safety your brain has been craving. This is why you might prefer long-distance relationships or people who are emotionally unavailable themselves. It's safer to long for someone who isn't there than to deal with someone who is. But we have to be honest about the shadow side of this independence. While your self-reliance is a superpower that has gotten you through a lot of hard times, it is also becoming a prison. There's a very thin line between not needing anyone and being unable to receive love. If you keep using these deactivating strategies, you will eventually find yourself in a life that is perfectly safe, but entirely empty. You think you're protecting your peace, but you might just be protecting your loneliness. The walls you built to keep out the pain are now the same walls keeping out the joy. It's a heavy price to pay for a sense of control that is mostly an illusion anyway. Healing this isn't about suddenly becoming an open book or forcing yourself to be clingy. It's about recognizing the itch to leave for what it is, a memory of a time when you weren't safe. You have to teach your nervous system that you are an adult now, and you have the power to walk away if things actually get bad, which means you don't have to run away while they're still good. You can stay in the room. You can take the sunburn of being seen and realize that you won't actually die from it. You are not a turtle anymore. You are a person who is allowed to be known. Think of your heart not as a vault to be guarded, but as a muscle that only gets stronger when it's under a little bit of pressure. The next time you feel that urge to nitpick or vanish, just try to sit still for 5 more minutes. See if the world actually ends. Usually, the boredom or irritation you feel is just the lobby of a much deeper, more beautiful room you haven't entered yet. What is the one flaw you always seem to find in people the moment you start to actually like them? Let's get honest about our deactivating strategies in the comments, because naming the monster is the first step to making it leave. Next time, we're going to talk about the opposite side of this coin, why some of us are so terrified of the silence that we chase people who are already halfway out the door.